Welcome to The Explainer. Sometimes a single moment can change everything. Today, we're diving into a story that starts with, well, a pretty reluctant prayer, but it ends with this incredible discovery that a simple act of service can literally be like a passport to a whole other world. So let's just jump right in. The story kicks off with this prayer. It's almost desperate. It's a community service day. Our narrator is a pastor, and he is really hoping to get out of what he thinks is going to be a seriously tough assignment. So, what's this assignment he's dreading so much? Well, it's supervising two teenagers, Kenny and Chris. And in his mind, these guys are the absolute last people you'd want for a service project. I mean, he has completely written them off. He wants nothing to do with it. And sure enough, as they're heading to their destination, a battered women's shelter, the boys start in with the complaints. One of them actually scoffs, "Work? I didn't even sign up for this. This is stupid." And for the pastor, this is basically confirmation. Yep, this day is going to be a total disaster, just like he thought. So at this point, he's feeling like God is just completely ignoring his prayer. Actually, it's worse than that. He feels like he's being punished. And this moment, this peak frustration, it's the perfect setup for the incredible turn this day is about to take. Okay, so this is where things start to get interesting. The shelter director comes over and she looks at these two, stringy-haired, saggy-dressed teenagers and asks if his team can help out. And the pastor is just floored. He can't believe she just used the word team to describe them. The tasks themselves are pretty straightforward. The women are in a group session, so they just need someone to plant some flowers and play with the kids. Simple, right? The narrator hands out the assignments, but honestly, he's still thinking the whole day is a complete write-off. And then, bam, something totally unexpected happens. Just as the pastor is muttering one last desperate prayer, a bunch of kids come running out, they grab Kenny right out of the van, and they pull him into a game. Just like that. Against all odds, he's suddenly in the middle of this massive game of duck, duck, goose. Meanwhile, what about Chris, the other complainer? He just looks at the flats of flowers, and you can almost see the gears turning. After this moment of what seems like shock, he just starts planting. No complaints, no attitude. He just gets to work, creating this beautiful new garden. Now this is the real turning point. As they're about to leave, the women come out from their session, they see the brand new garden, and they go right up to Chris to thank him. And as the pastor watches Chris take in their genuine gratitude, his entire perspective on the day, on these boys, just completely flips. So, what's the bigger picture here? Well, this whole experience is really a powerful story to illustrate a core idea from the source material. And that idea is that there are these two competing realities, or kingdoms, that we can actually choose to live in. Think of it like this. On one side, you've got what we could call the world's kingdom. It's often all about disappointment, looking out for number one, a thirst for power. But then there's this other reality, what the text calls God's kingdom. And that's all about joy, service, mercy, forgiveness. It's pretty amazing, right? The pastor and the boys started their days squarely in one kingdom, and without even realizing it, ended up in the other. And here's the crucial takeaway. The source material is basically saying that we have a choice here. It suggests that there's this powerful, positive force for joy and service inside each of us, and that it's actually stronger than all the negativity and self-interest that can sometimes feel so overwhelming out in the world. All right, so let's unpack the story's big conclusion. Because this really isn't just about one surprisingly good day. It's about a fundamental shift in how we can experience our entire lives. This is how the narrator sums it all up. He says that by stepping outside of themselves and just serving someone else, he, Kenny, and Chris all got a passport. They didn't travel anywhere, not physically, but they absolutely experienced a completely different reality, a different world. So let's be clear, this kingdom isn't some physical place you can point to on a map. It's a spiritual experience. You know that feeling of freedom you get when you finally forgive someone? Or that sense of purpose you find when you're helping others? That's it. That's the kingdom. The source suggests it's a reality that, in some ways, is even more real than the one we see with our eyes every day. And why does this idea resonate so deeply with so many of us? Well, the argument is that this universal desire we all have for joy and happiness, it's not an accident. It was put inside of us for a reason. To act like a compass, pointing us toward this other way of living, toward this other kingdom. Okay, so this all sounds really good in theory, right? But how do you actually get that passport? How do you become a citizen of this other reality? Well, the source material actually lays out a pretty practical guide, and it's inspired by a famous set of principles called the Beatitudes. It boils down to this really simple four-step practice. First, you just pick one principle to focus on, something like being merciful or humble. Second, you pinpoint a specific area of your life to apply it. Maybe it's how you interact with a friend or a family member. Third, you make a real effort to practice it for a week. And then, the final step is to just step back and reflect. Notice what happened. See if it gave you just a little glimpse of that other world. So, at the end of the day, this whole story leaves us with a really powerful, maybe even challenging thought. Every single day, we're faced with a choice between these two kingdoms, the one built on self-interest and disappointment, or the one built on service and joy. So, the final question is pretty simple. Which kingdom are you a citizen of?